Why Capricorn rarely depends on anyone. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you asked someone for help and actually meant it? Not the polite kind. Not the, oh, I'm fine, but if you happen to be around kind, I mean real help. The kind where you admit you can't do it alone. The kind where you lower your guard completely and say, I need you. If you're a Capricorn, I already know your answer. Because the truth is, you can't remember, or if you can, it made you uncomfortable. It made you feel exposed, maybe even a little ashamed. And here's what most people get wrong about that. They call it pride. They call it stubbornness. They call it a wall. But what if it's none of those things? What if Capricorn's fierce? Almost legendary independence isn't a flaw, but a coded survival mechanism written into your DNA by Saturn himself? What if the reason you rarely depend on anyone isn't because you can't trust, but because somewhere deep in your soul, you learned something that most people spend their entire lives trying to figure out, that the only foundation you can truly build on is yourself. Today, we're going inside the mind, the history, and the cosmic architecture of Capricorn's independence. We're going to talk about ambition, power, discipline, and what it truly means to be the person who shows up for themselves when the whole world falls silent. This is not just astrology. This is a mirror. And if you're ready to see yourself clearly, maybe for the first time, stay with me. Every Capricorn at some point in their life received a lesson that most people are never taught directly. It didn't come from a classroom. It didn't come from a book. It came from experience. Hard, unforgiving, clarifying experience. And the lesson was this: the world does not owe you anything. Not success, not love, not opportunity, not recognition, not even basic fairness. Saturn, Capricorn's ruling planet, is the great equalizer of the zodiac. Saturn doesn't care about your feelings. Saturn doesn't care about your potential. Saturn doesn't care about your good intentions or how hard you wanted to try. Saturn only recognizes one currency: results born from real effort. And when you grow up under Saturn's rulership, consciously or not, you absorb this truth at a cellular level. You stop waiting to be chosen. You start choosing yourself. You stop waiting for someone to open the door. You start building your own. You stop hoping that someone will show up and save you, and you become, quietly and without announcement, the kind of person who saves themselves. This is not coldness. This is not pessimism. This is not the sign of a person who doesn't believe in people. This is the sign of a person who has calibrated their expectations to reality and decided to operate from a place of radical self-reliance. And here's what that creates over time. A Capricorn who moves through the world with a kind of quiet, unshakable authority that other people can feel before they even speak. You've met someone like that. Maybe you are someone like that. The person who walks into a room and doesn't need to announce themselves. The person who doesn't fight for attention because they've never needed it. The person whose stillness contains more power than most people's noise. That is the Saturn-trained soul. That is a Capricorn who has learned, through loss, through disappointment, through watching others fail to show up, that the most reliable person in the room will always be the one looking back at them in the mirror. Independence is not something Capricorn woke up with one morning and decided to try. It was built, brick by brick, year by year, disappointment by disappointment, small victory by small victory. And the architecture of that independence is worth examining because it is one of the most sophisticated structures in the entire zodiac. The first pillar is discipline. Capricorn understands something that almost nobody in the modern world wants to hear. Freedom is not the absence of structure. Freedom is what you earn through structure, through systems, through habits so consistent and intentional that they become automatic, invisible scaffolding holding your entire life up. The person who wakes up at the same time every day, who doesn't need motivation to work because they've made work a non-negotiable identity, who saves when everyone else spends, who plans when everyone else reacts. That person is not limited by discipline. That person is liberated by it. Because when your systems are solid, you don't need to depend on luck. You don't need to depend on other people's decisions. You don't need to depend on circumstances going your way. You've already prepared for the circumstances not going your way. The second pillar is long-term thinking. Capricorn does not live in the moment. Not really. They live in the future they are constructing. And this is a superpower that most people mistake for joylessness. When a Capricorn turns down an invitation to do something impulsive, it's not because they're boring. It's because they can see, with startling clarity, where that impulsive choice leads in 6 months, in 2 years, in a decade. They are playing a chess game while everyone around them is playing checkers. And that long view, that ability to sacrifice the immediate for the significant, is what allows Capricorn to build the kind of life that other people stare at and wonder, how did they do that? The third pillar is standards. Capricorn depends on no one because Capricorn holds themselves to a standard that very few people can match. Not to be elitist, but because they know what they're capable of. They know what they're willing to put in. And when you operate at that level, it becomes genuinely difficult to outsource critical things to people who aren't operating at the same level. It's not that they think they're better. It's that they know what good enough actually costs, and they refuse to pay that price. So they do it themselves. Not out of arrogance. Out of standards. These 3 pillars, discipline, long-term thinking, and standards, are the architecture of Capricorn's independence. And together, they don't just make Capricorn self-reliant, they make Capricorn formidable. Now, I need to be honest with you. Because this channel is called Capricorn Secrets, and the real secrets aren't always flattering, they're true. Not all of Capricorn's independence comes from strength. Some of it comes from something much older, much quieter, much more personal. For many Capricorns, not all, but many, the refusal to depend on others is rooted in an early experience of being let down. A parent who wasn't emotionally present. A promise that was broken. A moment of vulnerability that was met with indifference or worse, with ridicule. And in that moment, something clicked in the Capricorn psyche. A decision was made, not always consciously, not always in words, but it was made. I will not put myself in that position again. I will not hand someone else the power to disappoint me. I will build something so solid inside myself that I will never need to. And that decision, born from pain, became the foundation of something extraordinary. Because Capricorn is not a sign that collapses under pressure. Capricorn is a sign that transmutes pressure. Like carbon under heat and force becoming diamond, Capricorn takes the wound and makes it a weapon. Makes it a work ethic, makes it a vision, makes it a legacy. But here's what I need you to hear. The wound is still there. Beneath the ambition, beneath the discipline, beneath the carefully constructed life, there is still a part of Capricorn that wants to be held. That wants to lean on someone without the world ending. That wants, just wants, to not be the strongest person in the room. And acknowledging that, not as weakness, but as humanity, is perhaps the most courageous thing a Capricorn can do. Because real power is not the inability to need people. Real power is choosing your self-reliance from a place of wholeness, not fear. The goal was never to be an island. The goal was always to be a foundation, strong enough to hold others without losing yourself. I'm going to stop here for just a moment. Because if you're watching this and something in your chest just shifted, if you felt something click into place that you've never been able to name before, I need you to know that this is exactly why this channel exists. Capricorn Secrets is not here to give you generic horoscopes or weekly predictions you'll forget by Tuesday. This channel is here to excavate the real Capricorn. The ambitious one, the powerful one. The one who built themselves from scratch and has never once asked for a standing ovation. You deserve to understand yourself at this depth. So if you're not subscribed yet, do it right now. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and join a community of Capricorns who are done being misread. Because the rest of this video gets even deeper, and you do not want to miss what's coming next. Let's keep going. Let's talk about ambition. Not the Instagram version, not the motivational poster version. The real kind. The kind that doesn't need an audience. The kind that burns quietly at 5 a.m. when no one is watching. The kind that doesn't stop when it's inconvenient, when it's hard, when the results aren't coming fast enough. That kind of ambition is Capricorn's natural language. And it is directly connected to their independence. Here's why. Most people's ambitions are social. They want success because of how it will make other people see them. They want recognition, validation, a reaction. Capricorn's ambition is structural. They want to build something that lasts. Something that will still be standing after the applause has ended. Something with their name on it. Not because they need the glory, but because they need the permanence. This is the legacy drive. And it is one of the most defining features of Capricorn psychology. Saturn is the planet of time, but also the planet of legacy, of what you leave behind, of whether your presence on this earth meant something, produced something, built something that outlives the years you spent building it. And when you are driven by legacy rather than by attention, validation, or the approval of others, you simply do not need people the way most people need people. You don't need someone to cheer you on. The goal cheers you on. You don't need someone to believe in you. Your vision believes in you. You don't need someone to push you. Saturn pushes you. This is why Capricorns can work alone in ways that would psychologically destroy other signs. This is why they can endure years of quiet, unglamorous effort without cracking. This is why, when everyone else needs constant external motivation to keep going, Capricorn is already 3 steps ahead, powered by something internal and ancient, and absolutely unrelenting. And this ambition, this legacy drive, it is not just about career or money or status, it is about mastery. Capricorn wants to become the best version of what they were designed to be. Not to compete, not to win, but because excellence is the only thing that feels honest to them. Anything less feels like a betrayal of their potential, of their effort, of the years they have already invested. That is not pride. That is standards meeting purpose. And it is magnificent. From the outside, Capricorn's independence can be deeply misunderstood. People look at Capricorn and see distant, cold, workaholic, hard to reach. They don't see what's actually happening. They don't see the Capricorn at midnight, still working, not because they're obsessed, but because they are building something real and they refuse to do it poorly. They don't see the Capricorn who turned down the shortcut again, because they know that shortcuts don't build character, and character is the only currency that actually compounds over time. They don't see the Capricorn who smiled quietly when they finally achieved the goal they'd been quietly carrying for 5 years, without posting it, without announcing it, without needing a single person to witness it. They only see the result, the promotion, the business, the stability, the life that looks like it appeared out of nowhere, and they call it luck. Capricorn doesn't correct them, because Capricorn has learned that most people don't want to hear about the years. They want to believe in the magic. And that's fine, Capricorn will keep working. Now, this independence also shows up in how Capricorn handles crisis. When everything falls apart and Saturn guarantees that at some point everything will fall apart, Capricorn does not dissolve. They do not spiral. They do not call 20 people looking for reassurance. They go quiet, they assess. They strategize. They rebuild. They are the person standing calmly in the middle of chaos saying, "Okay, what's the next right move?" Not because they're unaffected. Capricorn feels everything deeply, but because they've been trained by Saturn to function under pressure. And somewhere along the way, they discovered a truth that most people never find. That the ability to hold yourself together when everything is falling apart is the most powerful thing you will ever be able to do. Here's where the story gets beautiful. Because Capricorn's independence, as powerful as it is, was never meant to be the final destination. It was meant to be the foundation. The strongest Capricorns, the ones who have truly done the work, who have faced Saturn's tests and come out transformed, reach a point in their lives where something remarkable happens. They stop needing to prove they don't need anyone. And in that space, that quiet, hard-earned space, they discover that letting people in doesn't weaken what they've built. It enriches it. The Capricorn who has done the inner work doesn't need loyalty. They inspire it. They don't demand respect. They command it naturally, effortlessly, because of who they've become. And the relationships they build from that place of choosing connection rather than needing it, they are some of the most profound, most loyal, most unshakable bonds in the entire zodiac. Because when a Capricorn lets you in, really lets you in, they are not giving you their weakness. They're giving you access to their world. A world they built with their own hands, their own sacrifice, their own refusal to quit. And being trusted with that is one of the greatest honors in human connection. The final gift of Saturn, after all the discipline, after all the tests, after all the years of building, is this: that you become the kind of person others can depend on. Not because you need to be needed, but because you are solid enough to hold space for someone else without losing yourself. That is the completed Capricorn. That is the sea goat who climbed the mountain and swam the depths and came back to offer a hand to someone still on the way up. That is the fullness of what you were born to be. So here's what I want you to take with you today. Capricorn rarely depends on anyone, not because they are broken, not because they are damaged, not because they don't believe in people, but because they were forged in Saturn's fire and came out capable, disciplined, visionary, powerful. They built themselves from the ground up, in the dark without applause, and in doing so became the kind of person the world needs more of. Not the kind who waits for rescue, the kind who is the rescue. Not the kind who hopes for opportunity, the kind who constructs it. Not the kind who asks for a seat at the table, the kind who owns the building. If you are a Capricorn, carry this with you. Your independence is not a prison. It is a palace you built with your own hands, and you are allowed to invite people in, on your terms, in your time, with the full knowledge that you are not opening a door out of desperation, but out of power. If this video gave you something today, a name for something you've always felt, a mirror for something you've never seen clearly, then I have one thing to ask of you. Subscribe to Capricorn Secrets. Right now, before you close this tab, before you move on with your day. Because I am building something here, just like you are building something in your life, with intention, with depth, and with an uncompromising commitment to telling the real truth about what it means to carry the sign of the sea goat. Share this video with every Capricorn in your life who has ever been told they're too independent, too serious, or too hard to reach. Let them know that someone finally sees them, and that what the world called a wall was always a foundation. I'll see you in the next video.